July, everybody trying to look over to the releases of hearing none, we'll move on into the construction playground, I'm sorry. Construction update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got Mr. Underwood with us tonight, and gentlemen, I apologize for not putting the amounts on the June and July pay applications. I had that on top of my desk. I'll have that number before we get to the school board meeting here at 7 o'clock. Mr. Underwood has reviewed all those pay apps and has stated that they're in good standing and we're ready to pay.
Yeah, they're good. They're all good.
Thanks, sir.
I'm really happy this is probably be our last report. We are done, completed, well, almost completed at Highland Park. We're 99.9% complete. We have a certificate of occupancy from the State Fire Marshal's office. We also have a PO from the Loudon County code officials. School is open and operating. As of this Friday, we had 4 items outstanding. The metal coating on the rubber roof replacement was to be done, and they should have finished that up yesterday afternoon. We have a concrete pad and a sidewalk at the back in the courtyard to be poured yet, and we're waiting on the contractor to schedule that. We're doing some upgrades on the front entry doors. The contractor was waiting on the parts to come in for that. I was notified on the way over here that they would be there tomorrow, so that should be finished up by the first of the week. And we have some bollards that go in at the back to protect those new heat and air units that we put in to keep them from being damaged. We have performed a punch list. The contractor has been given a punch list of all items that require correcting. We hope that he'll have that done within 2 weeks. The majority of the items on the punch list were paint items. The bulk of it was. Yesterday when I was there, the school was operating well. Everything seemed to be in order, and the folks seemed to be happy. So I was glad to be a part of that. That was a great upgrade. The cafeteria was to that school. If y'all went and saw it, it really made a huge difference, and I was really privileged to be a part of that.
Charlie, I apologize for interrupting, but I want to jump in. If you're not in the cafeteria, it's amazing. I mean, we used to have HVACs that were inside the cafeteria. That's all been removed. The ductwork's been removed. We've got windows there now, and a new panel in the ceiling. I mean, it's just really a nice looking facility. It is. It's amazing the difference.
And the school bought just for a little. The school bought a few tables that say Highland Park on them, and the day, I guess it was registration day, lots and lots of parents brought the children there, and the only thing those kids said is, we'll never get to sit at those tables, there's not enough of them. So they really love those tables. It's been a good experience. Good. Any questions, comments, anything I can do for y'all?
We appreciate it.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get those pay amounts. Board meeting, sound like we're pretty good shape on that. Then there's the state grants. Director.
Mr. Chairman, school board members, we have a couple of different state grants. One is the LEAPS grant that we do after school activities with. It's a $300,000 grant. We've also got some special education grants we've received from the state, and we've received a CTE grant from the State Department. I can't remember how much our special ed grants are for. I know the CTE grant was for about $125,000. We'll buy some welding equipment and some equipment for health science programs, and that's with the governor's money, with $15 million that was to be dispersed across 141 counties. None of the grants that we're receiving into our school system are a cost to us. There's no matching portion, so it'll be my recommendation we approve the grants and facilitate these budgets.
Any questions on those grants? Seeing none, we'll move on down to the bus contract addendum.
Gentlemen, last year we had an issue where one of our bus, and we never had an issue like this before. One of our bus drivers ran into one of the awnings at a school, and so in essence the board was paying for the insurance and paying for a bus driver's mishap. This is a typical, this is not typical. I mean, our bus drivers are pretty safe. They've got great records, and I put ours up against anybody in the states. They do a really good job. With that being said, we saw at this point in time it was appropriate for us to consider an addendum to where if the bus driver was at fault, then we obviously still provide the insurance, but they would pay the deductible for the accident at hand. I believe that Ms. Cox has spoken with our bus driver contractors, and I think that they're all in agreement that that's appropriate. So with the board's permission, we'll accept that addendum tonight and move forward tomorrow.
Any questions on that?
So you're saying the bus owner will pay, not the driver, not the employee will be?
That's correct. So like, for example, if Ocean's got 5 or 6 buses, he would be the responsible party, not necessarily the bus driver.
Okay.
Yes. There's one other issue that I would like for us to add to the board agenda, and it is the addendum to pay for to recalculate the pay, to refacilitate the pay. Right now, Ms. Cox, help me, I think that we pay them on 8 equal monthly payments.
And then one in the night,
That's
the night one is for the shorter period of time. We typically are paying them now 20-day increments, and then in May, they get a shorter check of 17 days.
So they made the request to us to pay them evenly over a course of the year. And so with your approval, I will recommend that we make that adjustment. There's no dollars that's going to change up or down, it'll just be agreed about in the pay.
And it makes our bookkeeping a little neater and understood. Any other questions on that, or any questions? Seeing none, we'll go down to the telephone village supplies.
We have partnered, I want to say kudos to Mrs. Malone in the back of the room, technology supervisor. She has partnered with Teleco Village Kiwanis Club, and they partnered with both of these organizations are going to present us a check at the actual board meeting at 7 o'clock. And kudos for this. This check will go towards our middle schools to help support a robotics program in part, along with the cooperation with Mrs. Malone in regard to technology department. So I think it's going to be great for us. I mean, we always love community sponsors, people that are willing to donate to our schools to help improve student performances and programs. But again, kudos to Ms. Malone for helping facilitate this process.
We need to take note that Telco Village residents continue to be some of our biggest supporters of Loudon County schools. They've been very gracious over the years, scholarship programs and equipment. Who's that short?
Well, let me carry it one
There are
step
some
further.
exceptions.
Telco Village Community Concert or Players Club or something. I don't know what the name of the group is.
Players.
Yeah, those guys have reached out to us and asked what they can do to support our arts programs at the high school, and they want to do a scholarship or something. I mean, so, you know, they're
Fix it up with that.
oh, absolutely. We love to, you know, facilitate funds for kids. And so,
We love that.
absolutely. So kudos to them. Yes, sir.
We'll move, any other comments on that item? If not, we'll move on to policy update, director.
All right, Mr. Chairman, board members, I've got a few policies that TSBA has recommended. We've got several that in my mind are no big issue at all. They're just updates in verbiage and the way that the policy reads, and then it's in compliance with State Board of Education policy or new state legislation that has been proposed. I'm going to recommend that we approve all of those on first reading and waive the second reading. The other policy we have is school district records. I think that there's been some questions raised about that policy in the past. I'm going to recommend that we approve that one on first reading tonight, and if we see any issues that we have that you guys would like to change, or if you've got community input that you would like to see changed, I think that's a policy that we can approve on the second reading or just between on the second reading in the September meeting. Does that make sense? So
1.407.
1.407 is the one I'm making reference to that we would follow the complete protocol with. All of the others, I would recommend that you waive first reading, approve on, you know, waive second reading and just approve on the first reading. For example, 2.703 is about audits. You know, that's updated verbiage and just making sure that if we have an audit finding that we report appropriately back to the State Department with an approved plan. 3.302 is emergency preparedness plan. They're talking about doing armed intruder drills every year with local law enforcement cooperation and 2 fire drills within the first 30 days of school, and 4 safety announcements to follow that. Again, that's not a big deal to me. I think that's something that we easily fall in compliance with. Student Transportation Management Plan 3.400. we have got some new legislative requirements in regard to the way that we transmit contact information from our transportation supervisor and how she reports complaints and other things of that nature back to my office. Again, not a big deal. The credit recovery policy 4.210 is a new policy by the State Board of Education that speaks about students, once they go into credit recovery, can only receive a grade of 70 as compared to some school systems average the old grade and the new grade in different ways. And so this brings consistency across the state of Tennessee. 4.301 interscholastic athletics. There was surely a school system in Tennessee that lost their mind because this policy says that kids that have games that fall on religious holidays or worship should not be penalized for that. Well, that's crazy. If you don't want to go to a football game because they're going to church or they're experiencing some sort of religious event, we shouldn't hold that against them. We're going to be in compliance, so that's not going to be a big deal. The grading system 4.600 says that for honors classes, when at the high school level, when kids take honors classes, they'll receive 3 extra points. For dual credit, they'll receive 4 extra points, and for an AP class, they'll receive 5 extra points. Again, that makes sense and is in compliance with state board policy. The testing programs, 4.700, the board has to approve a percent, 15 to 25% for the 18-19 school year that will associate with in-course tests and Tennessee Ready tests. In my opinion, I think that you should always try to be more inclined as far as having tests count more for kids than maybe homework and things of that nature. But as early as we are in the new Tennessee Ready testing format and the new curriculum that we're working through, I would recommend that we start at 15% and work our way up in years to come as we see teachers become more familiar with content and see the test evolve to the point where teachers are more comfortable with the platform, as well as students, not just teachers. Again, that's not a big deal in my mind. 5.200, 5.201, and 5.701 says that retired teachers can work up to 120 days as compared to in years past they would work 90 days before they were penalized with their TCRS benefits. We don't have too many situations like this, but an example was Ann Randall last year. I think she filled in Loudon Elementary for Mrs. Broussard while she was out on medical leave. This would make sure that she was not penalized, and we would work in cooperation with the school system to fall within those guidelines. 5.203 is a brand new policy from TSBA. This recommendations and file transfer. In essence, the gist of it says that if you've got a teacher that gets in trouble for some sort of sexual misconduct, that you would not willfully help them find employment elsewhere. Well, that makes sense. I mean, we should. We should obviously make sure that we're providing a good process and none of it. 5.600 standardized responsibilities. And this is an updated teacher rights that they've been approved this year with legislative up 60. Again, all of those are straightforward. All right, the school board, the school district records, the 1.407. This is the one that I would recommend we approve first reading and then come back and revisit second reading in September to make sure we're on the same page. TSBA has recommended that we approve this one as far as people that want to respect and request and inspect our records. We spoke about this several months ago. I would recommend that we would have Ms. Caitlin Malone as the record custodian and record request coordinator. Again, I think that TSB's got a solid policy that follows comptroller's guidelines, and but I know that this will cause some question that you guys might have or some citizens might have in regard to how we might charge for fees and things of that nature. In my opinion, there's no reason you can't take this policy, add 2 or 3 lines to it saying this is how much we charge, or we wouldn't charge anything at all, or if you requested X number of copies, we would charge after that number of copies, and then I think that would be sufficient with the policy itself. That's all I got on the policy, Mr. Chairman.
Are we still using hard copy records in school for permanent records, or are we slowly trending to digitize all of that?
We have hard copies.
Go and everything, or where are we in that process?
We use hard copies for students.
We talked about that one before sometime back, and at that time we didn't have the dollars.
How long do we keep those things?
You know, I think that Ms. Kenny keeps them over at LCTC for years, and I'm not sure what the answer to that is. I know that we've got kids, I bet we got some of y'all records out there.
Yeah, you got, there's
I'd like to see it. As far as the percentage on the testing, will the teachers have any impact on that selection of the percentage, 50 to 25?
You guys are are the ones that set that policy, or that number.
And they all go in, is this where we're gonna let the teachers have some?
So this morning, I
That's
asked,
a big deal.
it's a huge deal. This morning, I asked our principals for some input on that. We had 7 of our 9 principals say, let's go to 15. That makes the most sense. And afterwards, one of the principals that said, let's go higher than that, I think maybe it's 8 of the 9 principals that said 15. One principal said 25. After he heard some of the other reasons and logic behind some of the other principals' conversation, he said, yep, I hear you. 15 is probably fair for now, with the understanding I'd like to see if we can get to 25 in years to come.
Do you think that reasonably represents how your staff would feel?
If I were a school board member, I would go back to teachers after I approved this policy. If I approved it at 15%, and I'd say, I want to take care of you and your kids. I know this is a challenging time with a new transition, with new curriculum, with new testing and new platforms. I want to make sure that you're successful right now and your kids are successful. I got you.
Doesn't the state move back up to 35 within the next 2 to 3 years?
So the state's really backed up on this quite a bit and said, used to it was hard 25, it didn't matter what you did. Now the state's saying, you do what you want to do, what you feel is appropriate for your specific region. And again, in my mind, if you can get to 25, that's a good number. But I think in light of all the changes and all the inconsistencies, 15% is appropriate at this point in time. Because TC Ready is a hard test, especially for kids that have not experienced that. Teachers have not really had a great opportunity to disaggregate the data and understand what the test is really about.
We really don't have a very good track record in Tennessee of implementing that. So why give you the reliability?
I agree. Amen.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing none, we'll move on to Greenback Facility, Mr. Newman.
As some of you are aware, most should be aware, we have a new baseball coach in Greenback, Mr. Wes Caldwell. Kenny and I have had the opportunity to talk to him, and I think he's talked to Phil. But anyway, he's got some a wish list, and some things he needs over at the field. Kind of keeping up with what we've kind of set the pattern over the last couple of years. We've been trying to update our facilities. We just got the fence fixed over there, looks pretty good. He's got some issues with drainage, like we had down there at the high school. And he's wanting to get it fixed. I'm gonna have him come up here and sit with us. Coach, you back there?
Yes, sir.
And that way we can ask him any questions. I gave everybody a portfolio. He's got it laid out there. The things that, there's a list of things that he and his staff and the kids are doing. That they're funding themselves, and then of course he's got the list that he needs our help with. I'll let him talk about the kind of his plan that he got for the Greenback facilities, but there's a couple things also replacing the backstop padding, which is a safety issue, and replacing the protective fence tabs. So, but Wes, I'll let you. Anybody got any questions? I'll just let you explain what you want to do, Wes.
Okay. Does anybody got any questions about it?
I just want to tell you, thanks for preparing this for us. It takes a lot of work to do this, and it looks like there's quite a bit of no funding requests. Somebody's already doing some work on their own. And I think that's important.
Just one point I'd like to make, and I'm sure some of the board are aware of it, some are not. Right now, we're running on a continuous budget because the commission has not set our budget. So we can't spend anything new that we can operate under the present, what we paid last month. So whatever you present to us, we'll be more or less willing to listen and see what we do, but to know how much funding we'll have and what to do with it. That way the commission gives us our money. But right now, all we've been, we ain't been a dime more than they allow us like that.
Sure.
Just let go up front, not trying to hide anything or not do anything, but sometimes the law supersedes what you'd like to do.
Okay.
But glad you brought it, we'll see what we can do.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to do this and present this request. Of course, it's a facility improvement thing, but I think the biggest point with the request is that the largest challenge for really any baseball program, not just at Greenback, is funding your program. It's a hard sport to fundraise for. When you count gate receipts with what your expenses are, baseball is one of the most expensive sports. There's one of the biggest numbers there. And the biggest goal that I have, not only with improving the facilities, is making the facilities nice enough to draw some of the tournaments. In the past 20 years, I've hosted for USSSA, Dizzy Dean, different type tournaments, and I've found that that's been the best fundraiser over 20 years of coaching baseball that I've been a part of. And the school where I previously worked, I had some partnerships with some of these different organizations where basically they rented out the facilities and I ran it and drug the field between games and things like that, and they paid a usage fee. And some of those I've got in the back on a little tab that says opportunities. Some of those are letters with about 3 tournaments that are willing to come with me. Developed a personal relationship with those guys and those different things. The first one's actually Dizzy Dean. I've been their host for 6 years for their 14-year-old state and their 16-year-old state. And I put them kind of at the top because that's the ones you make the most of, to be honest with you. But last year we were able to make somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 for a high school program where we were. So I know that this is a large request, but I do believe it's an investment, and I do believe it will give the program the chance to help sustain the funding it needs for years to come, and things like that. The companies that I got bids from on this, River City Athletic Fields and Southern Athletic, I believe Southern Athletic has done some work here before. Those guys do the SEC tournament. In the past, they've done the state tournament. So the quality of work that's in here is definitely high quality work. The guys that have the lowest bid here, I noticed I've seen a lot of facilities they've done. They've done a lot of college facilities, high school facilities. Like I say, they've worked the SEC tournament. When they get done, it's turnkey. They're done. There's not anything that, hey, these guys got done, and then they let you $8,000 worth of work. There wouldn't be anything to be done. But the large part of the request is to get the surface redone, have it taken out and redone, and be able to maintain it with a watering system and things like that. And I think if we're able to do that, like he said earlier, I know I'm kind of jumping around, he said earlier that we've got a list in the front here of planned improvements. These are all things that I believe need to get done to be a good host for these guys that want us to. And I think there's about 12 of them, and about 8 of them, there's no funding requested. Expansion of the dugout, that's been started. That's been about 6 of those 8 on the top have already been started, the things that are going to take no funding. But when we get to the bottom and the area of redoing the surface and putting water there for that, that's just an expense that, that I can't come up with. And the reason for the timing for me bringing it to the table early is these organizations that I've worked with in the past that would come and host events here and allow us to make some money for our program, that's kind of a 1-year window, really. They're guys that I've worked with for decades, and they're willing to come, but my fear is that, hey, if I lose them, will I get them back? So I've got a pretty good clientele to be able to make money for our program. And
if we host these tournaments, what other kinds of costs are associated with it?
For us, really no cost other than paint, things like. There's really no cost. It's a matter. They want you to have it ready, and they want you to doll it up and have it painted and fix it between games and things like that. So
It's our facility. Do we have any liability associated with it? Do we need liability insurance, for example?
When you host, you can ask that the teams put you on I guess it's COI, added insured, because I've done the same things at tournaments. They make you come in, and that would take any liability off of the county.
Other question is you got here from one of the letters that you got, that's one field we're talking about fixing up. Where are you gonna host if you got 45 teams? Where else do you plan that?
Well, Ned Lee, for instance, is one of those guys, and he hosts tournaments in the Knoxville area, and he spreads them out by age group. he doesn't have the facilities. And this past summer, he came to Knoxville 3 times, and he did everything 14 to 18. So I called him and said, hey, why do you not do 13s? Because you need facilities. And he said, I'd love to do 13s, don't have enough fields. And he keeps them in like a geographic area. So I said, what if you use Greenback, Loudon, Sequoia, somebody close, would you add 13s? So he said, if I could get 3 high schools pretty close, I'd be glad to add 13s. I actually talked to Coach Lambert about this too. Usually the Dizzy Dean, the guy that's in the front, likes to have 2 places and have them close. And Coach Lambert at Loudon High School said he'd love to be involved in something like that.
I guess the other question I got too, and this might be for Jason, or Mike Castile, who's gonna police this as far as making sure we take care of, not us, but we got in the mess where Mike took us around nowhere and the community didn't take care and take the pride that you're gonna take in what they got, and they tear the fence up, tear the field up, we put in about $30,000. Who's gonna make sure that stays maintained and the right people don't, the wrong people don't get in there and mess up everything?
I think the ultimate responsibility falls on my shoulders, and, just as it would be my responsibility, the first person I look to is Mr. Castillo, the first person he's gonna look to is Mr. Caldwell. So I think that, I'm not throwing off on former coaches that we have had in years past, but I think Mr. Caldwell's got a proven reputation. I believe he's gonna come in and make sure things are run well. With that being said, you and I have the same concern. Like no paper on the fence. I mean, that obviously screws up your facilities. Just obvious things that we need to do to be appreciative and appropriate in the way that we facilitate that. And so I think it's one of those things, once you invest in it, you get it to a place that you like, first person you catch, you smoke them real good, live one in the streets, for lack of a better term, and I think it takes care of itself in the
Well,
future.
we've got a much better relationship now than we used to have. I mean, they're working well together. Wes is going to have a meeting with them and make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody
The
knows.
community play over there on that field?
Yeah, Red League plays.
And do we use like the little field there, is it still there?
They use the little field.
They're just 2 fields. There's a main baseball field
And then that little one.
It's a little
Yeah.
bit.
How many kids they got in the Red League?
Last year they had close to 200 kids. They had a pretty good record.
200 kids in Greenback?
Well, they pulled from Red League.
I just don't,
They pulled.
I mean, I like what you got, self-funded, I like that. And you can make money off these tournaments without a doubt. That's what I wanna know is where you were going. You get 40 teams, I know you're gonna have to have more than one facility to be at. You give the opportunity to hit Loudon up. I think it's
Another
And I've done both. I've hosted tournaments in Chattanooga where I rented the Summit and used high school fields. And I'd love to do that here. Coach Lambert and I have talked about that, but one thing about it with this is, for instance, Ned Elite, when he comes in, he'll run this whole big thing and he would just pay each high school a daily fee. He pays $250 a day and lets you make all the concessions that you want. So, Loudon would get that, Greenback would get that, whoever he would use.
Basically, your responsibility.
What's the priority here, gentlemen, those of you that are familiar with it, your sponsor, is this something you want to put in the budget for the future, or is this right now, we got to do it now?
I'd like to see us vote on it next month if we get our,
I have no problem with that.
because we need to go ahead and decide.
I just have,
Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions that you can't answer. I'm sure you can. You'll have to go back to Southern Athletic. Why is their bid so high? Because we just done one the exact way at Loudon, and it was 10-5. Minus the removing. And the remove is gonna be about $4 grand. So I don't understand why it's so much higher for the infield. Scotty said it's a little bit bigger. The number on here, on this, says they bring in the clay. They brought in the whole truckload of clay, plus the topsoil, or the conditioner, which is the crushed brick. And it was 10-5, and I have questions that you can answer, help me from Southern Athletic.
Could you give us a more itemized, estimate for them?
I'll be glad to, yeah.
And maybe even call another company, maybe get a
Yeah,
four,
rebid it.
and then.
That's awesome.
That's
But
three
I
times.
guess,
Yeah, because
18,000.
But all 3 of them are fairly close together, so there must be some difference.
It might be legit, I don't know.
And that's what, I don't know the difference. That's
How many feet look our softball bases.
How many feet?
They're 60 feet.
Or 60.
Yeah.
We're 9.
Right, so.
The square footage is gonna be different, $18,000 different.
Here's what we need to realize too,
Ken, you're good.
that amount of
You did
28,000, what he expects us to leave.
You
Go out,
did sod in?
go through purchasing, county purchasing, and they'll have to bid that, then see what we got, we can't operate off these bids.
Warner Athletic was another one that I called, and theirs was so much higher. I didn't believe in that.
Unless some of these companies are part of a cooperative purchasing agreement, and if so, then they can be selected.
Not
Only a few bid, because the bid's already done through co-op.
Well, I'm just gonna suggest, I guess we'll have to vote on it, that we'll let him bring back some itemized, if he can email us or whatever, get them to us.
That's all I'm
itemized,
asking for.
I'm not,
estimate,
I'm
and
not,
then
I'm not against it.
we can just say, we're gonna allow him up to $29,000, and then that'll be up to Jason and Chad and Coach
Like what I'm getting at,
to do
we
that.
need to get a ballpark figure, and then we're gonna have to go through Susan, if we don't, she's gonna smack her hand back.
I think if we do it, we need to do it right, because we're only gonna do it once.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the
Let's do
infield
it
is
right.
very important.
Let's look at his
especially-
first proposal, because it has the fence repair and everything in it, and, you know, let's do it as economically as possible, let's don't pinch pennies.
And I
Especially
think-
with the sod infield, it's gonna be.
Yeah,
right.
and
It's gotta be done
the
right.
big thing is that water tie in too, we gotta make sure he's got water supply, so.
I just wanna make sure we put that much money in, that thing is taken care of, not by you, I know you're gonna take care of your baby, but by the community over there, because.
Bobby, what are you saying?
I mean, you go over there and look and see how it's damaged and tore up and not taken care of, you get people in there that don't have any ownership.
I mean,
are they running vehicles out, what?
No, it's just laying pepper and tears, laying pepper on the fence, just doing stuff not to maintain, and take care of it.
Okay.
That's the thing. And, I mean, it didn't go further than that, but I just wanna make sure we put in that much money, and you're gonna do what you're gonna say you're doing, I wanna make sure it's taken care of.
I agree 100% with your concern, 100%. And what I can say on my behalf of it is I've been accused of living in the baseball field several times, and I intend to run a summer program as well. And I'm gonna be there, and I really believe that, and not saying anything about the way things have been done in the past, I'm not doing that at all. But I do think a key component in that is people knowing that somebody's there all the time. I'm gonna be there every day, and I'm gonna be, yeah, and I'm gonna be running summer things, I'm gonna have things going. So it's gonna be common for me to be there on a daily basis. And I think when people realize that, they're less apt to be there when they're not supposed to be and things like that.
Coach, we've never had a true baseball coach over there, it was always whoever got stuck doing it. And so baseball took that's gonna be your field, it's gonna be your baby, and so we pull up over there and they're messing stuff up, you're gonna be the first one we come complain to, so.
Will, I agree there too.
In which,
What's the distance on that water line that you're having to run?
I don't know the distance, but if you're familiar with the field, it's just off to the side of where the concession stand is, and it's out to the mail, so I'm gonna guesstimate at 80 feet.
I'm gonna say, because $2,500 sounds kind of expensive just to go that distance, and it's just a PVC pipe.
Well, that includes the 1-inch connect, the hose, the sprinkler head, that includes all of that bells and whistles, and that's where I need to get more itemized too, because that includes the hose, the sprinkler head, the nozzle, everything. It's ready to do everything you want to do with it.
I think the board,
No, you go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, we've got a pretty good idea, and I say let's get some more hard numbers about what we need, and then we'll redress this thing and see where we at, or need to go.
yeah, I'm 100% for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that all right, Coach?
Yes, sir.
appreciate you coming.
Mr. Caldwell, appreciate your attention, sir.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Have a good day, bro.
Hope you win them all at one. See you, brother.
All right. Any other comments or any other comment before we move on? All right. It's about us, got it pretty well. ribbon cutting, Highland Park.
Guys, Principal Highland Park asked about, I spoke to her about ribbon cutting Highland Park for recent renovations and addition to the school. We talked about maybe doing it earlier in the year, and she said, give me a month and let me get this fit shine in the way it needs to look before we do a ribbon cutting and invite the community out. But she asked, and I told her I would present it to you guys, if you guys wanted to have your September board meeting at Highland Park and do a ribbon cutting at that point in time. She is willing and flexible to do anything in the world you guys want to do, but wanted me to present it to you guys and see if that was acceptable. Okay, so in September, so like today, we're meeting for a workshop and then a board meeting afterwards, but in September, you would meet September the 14th at Highland Park to do a short workshop and immediately afterwards do a ribbon cutting. And then, do you want to host your board meeting at Highland Park, or do you want to try and get back down to the Unites?
Oh, yeah, do it first.
Okay, so if you
got
guys,
some more we can.
I think that we can host it in the library and facilitate enough space to occupy the audience that would want us to attend. It's a nice facility, so I will, I'll
Are
communicate.
we going to, I know that we discussed kind of playing by ear, but in September, not gonna have that many things on the agenda that we don't need to have the workshop a week ahead of time.
I think that September, mine's budget amendments, and I'm gonna speak about that in just a moment, but I think September should be fairly light. The school just now starting back.
We put it in the,
We can always do whatever you guys want.
yes. Well, the big thing will be just getting a dollar plug in and have a little bit more.
That's right.
Before we go.
That's right.
That's the big thing. I think we got it. If it's something comes up, we can always change it. All right, any other business being necessary by the board of directors?
All right, I've got a couple things. I emailed you guys a list of our new staff, our new teacher assistants, new assistant principals. You should have that information in an email version. Student counts are up this year significantly as compared to what we've seen in the years past. In 2011, we adopted an out-of-county policy that, in my opinion, stifled attendance. We saw declines for every year that afterwards that we had accepted it. I think this afternoon Mike told me that we were just above 4,900, like 4,902 or something of that nature, as compared to this past spring in May, we were 4,769. So that's a difference of about 131 kids. With that being said, we know that some of our kids from Loudon High School have not shown up and will transfer to other schools. I think that's probably about 15 or 20 kids. It still puts us above 100 kids that are new this year. All right, so what that does is that it puts us in a situation where some of our schools are picking up a couple. Eaton's picked up 7, but they're about that close to needing a new teacher in 4th grade with the way BEP numbers are facilitated. Fort Loudon's up 8. I think they're good with our student and teacher ratios. Greenback is up 42. And I fussed at Mr. Castile and I said, listen, man, you'll make me look bad with the board if you come in and you got a bunch of out-of-county kids. So he sent me an email and he sent me a list of like several kids that had enrolled. He's got 13 kids that have transferred from Eaton or from Greenback, or not Greenback, Fort Loudon, North Middle School, various schools across the county to Greenback. He's got 3 new kids from Florida, a kid from California, a kid from Virginia, 3 kids from Texas. So his
Hey, recruiting going well.
He's got a couple of new. He's got 11th and 12th grade for what he wanted, I know of. But in essence, I believe these numbers to be legit. With that being said, I believe that we're probably going to have to facilitate a teacher at Greenback in order to make their teacher BEP ratios work. Highland Park's picked up an extra kid. Loudon Elementary's picked up 6 kids. Loudon High School's probably around 60. North Middle School's about 60. And I think that part of that is in North City kids transitioning to Loudon High School because they see the product that we're providing. And I think
Scott, Harry's back.
Man, I would go to the board. It's the board. I mean, I think the board has set such leadership standards.
Absolutely.
I think that people are seeing it.
Clearly.
North Middle School's picked up 12. North Middle School is another school that is just as kids, a few kids away from needing an extra teacher in the 5th grade. Eaton and 4th, North at 5th, and then again, Greenback, we're playing with our numbers because it's a comprehensive school. It's kind of hard to tell exactly where to plug that number in. Philly's down 16, Sticky's down 15. With that being said, overall, we're over 100. You don't see new money incorporated in your budget from state and federal until the next year. It's a year lagging. So this time next year, if our numbers stay consistent, we'll receive hundreds of thousands of dollars based on these new student enrollment numbers. All right, but again, this is probably going to cause us for the first time in 7 years that I've been a director to have to dip in that contingency fund to put teachers in different places to make sure that we stay within our BEP ratios. Just want to bring it to your
Did
attention.
I hear you say real quickly that Philadelphia is the law? Did we see a concurrent increase in Fort Loudon Middle or Elementary relative to the loss of Philadelphia? Because that's what we want to happen.
And these numbers are a little bit premature because all of our kindergarten kids have not completely come to school yet. They're still transitioning in. Again, Eaton at 7+, Fort Loudon 8+, Greenback at 42+, Highland Park at 1+, Loudon Elementary 6+, Loudon High School
Okay,
around
that's
16.
So it's 19 and 14.
And again,
That's almost a wash.
and
Jason, we built into this year's budget, this coming year's budget, for 2 teachers additional if we needed them.
That's correct.
You're saying we may need 3.
well, all right, so I'm not completely finished. This afternoon, Ms. Amber spoke to me about our pre-K special education program potentially needing a new special ed teacher as well. I think that we've got about 25 kids that are in that program. Obviously, it's not appropriate for a teacher to facilitate 25 3-year-olds that are not potty trained. So we are considering our options with that as well. So I'm saying that we for sure need to put another teacher in at least one of our schools. We may not need to put a teacher in North yet, but I'm thinking Eaton's probably going to need a teacher that would eventually transition to North with student population rising from 3rd to 4th grade next year, because 3rd grade's a bigger grade in Eaton. I know that puts them over the numbers for sure next year. That number will obviously follow them into North Middle School. And then, so I'm thinking Eaton's probably going to need one, Greenback's probably going to need one, and we may need another one for a special education pre-K program, but I'm still playing with numbers. And we don't have a complete resolution at this point in time. Helen and I are working back and forth.
Does that sped teacher need to be a certain?
They need to be a certified special education teacher. The State Department has said that they will not allow teachers to work on a wage license anymore, and they've got to have and now they've recently come out with them, and this just yet last night, they come out with an update that said if they're in an approved program of study through a college and they've got an approved mentor, that is an acceptable accommodation. But outside that exception,
That's just weasel words.
I'm just telling you, that's,
So 43 kids at Greenback, new kids at Greenback?
42.
42?
Yes.
Yeah, where y'all putting those folks?
They're all through the building from kindergarten.
The house?
Hey, they're straight out of Alcoa, California.
Yeah.
On the opposite side.
Does everything you're supposed to do, check address.
Charming and endearing personality.
Don't tell us that. On the opposite side of the county, you got Loudon, it's about 60 guys.
Yeah, we know what comes out of high school.
I look at it this way, if you put a good product
Just
out
give it
there,
to them.
they'll come.
That's exactly right.
And I feel like we've got it. That's right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've got one more thing. Like Mr. Newman mentioned a minute ago, we can't do budget amendments this month because county commission doesn't have a budget appropriated until August 24th. I understand, based on several commissioners' comments, that they don't anticipate problems with that. They'll set penny rates, and then they'll set budgets for everybody across the county that night. At that point in time, you guys will then be able to enact any budget amendments that you want to, with fund balance, with our current budget, or anything in addition to that that you would like to see. Mr. Brown and I are working on a continued long-range plan that would incorporate several capital expenditures like updating Loudon High School's restrooms and fixing some roofs over a long period of time, and just various and sundry things across all 9 of our schools and LCTC. And so we'll hopefully be able to bring that information back to you guys in September. I know his department has been slammed, just starting back to school, plus the summer months are obviously challenging for his group to prepare HVACs and things like that.
Those bathrooms at Loudon High School, that's not a wish list.
Absolutely, and my principals have been busy starting school back to where we're not even on.
Everything you're talking about, Jason, here, could add on to what the doc said, this stuff isn't optional, we have to do it.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
So that's the reason I said to you earlier, depending on when they get theirs, I'd rather not to rush into what we need to do it right, even if it means waiting to fund and after September.
Well, and
Let's get it right to start with.
Is there any growth money not going to terminate of?
I had a commissioner tell me the other day that adequate facilities tax was at it was funded a greater amount this year than we've seen it in ever. So, and I think he's been bringing in $615,000 annually or more.
Sweet.
Don't worry, Scott, you'll have something to spend it on.
Any board member,
That's what it's there for. It's good stuff.
any board member got anything?
Good thing, Loudon Greenback, don't could do anything.
Always been something.
This is time for anyone to audit, like the rest of the board, back on their own agenda and not on the agenda, and now it's time to do so.
Mr. Chairman, I know we've got two parents that want to speak here in just a few moments after Mr. Miles speaks, and I'll introduce you to them. They asked me to introduce them to you, and they said they'd be able to take it from there. Mr. Miles, good afternoon, sir.
I'll be glad to let somebody else.
You're good, you're good.
Okay. It's gonna sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but I'd like to put this thing to bed. A year ago, I got up and spoke about a policy that y'all were about to approve. And I told you that if you approve that policy, that you'll be breaking a Tennessee state law because of some legislation that was passed prior to that that caused that policy to be redone. And y'all voted it and approved it anyway. It took me quite a while to get to where I'm at today on this. I tried to talk to 3 different legislators that voted for that bill, and after talking with them, they agreed with me that it was not done right. That bill's said in that bill, which was later signed by governor and turned into law, that you were supposed to handle that policy a certain way. As far as I'm concerned, you did not handle that policy that way. So as far as I'm concerned, like I told you, you broke a Tennessee state law. One of the legislators agreed with me. He said,
Mr. Miles, which policy are you making reference to?
it's the policy about teaching Islam in schools. It was either 4.804 or 8.404.
Okay.
I've got it in this packet here somewhere.
I got
If you
you.
need the exact number.
Just want to make sure we was on the same page.
That legislator agreed with me. But he told me, he said, the legislators make laws, they do not enforce the laws. And I said, well, who do I need to go to talk about this? I said, somebody has got to enforce the laws that the legislators make concerning school districts and school boards. Well, after sending correspondence to the Department of Education and the Tennessee State School Board Association, it was the School Board Association that got back with me and said that they will look at it. Well, several weeks later, I was told that they're going to have a meeting on this, and they did. Well, several weeks later, I heard nothing, so I contacted the School Board Association, and my response back to them happened, quite a while later too. I was told that they turned it over to the local school board. So I contacted the School Board Association again, and I said, what did y'all discuss at the meeting? What was the outcome, and what did you turn over to the local school board? And they contacted me back, and they said, we turned it over to the local school board. So that's all I'm going to get out of them. So what I would ask tonight is, did you receive anything from the Tennessee State School Board Association concerning that policy? And if so, I'd like to know what it is. Now, Chairman Tate was probably not the chairman at the time, so he may not have gotten anything from the School Board Association. It might have been Mr. Newman or Mr. Vance.
I didn't receive anything, but usually if it's something like that, it comes to the school system itself.
What's your understanding of that policy, and when you say we're in violation, well, what do you believe that violation to be?
I can read you word for word from this policy of what you were supposed to have done, if you want to hear it.
Okay.
Dr. Rutherford.
Yes.
And board members, if you don't mind, 4.804 is a religious content of course. And the policy says very specifically, educational content which consists of religious themes shall be presented in factual, objective, and respectful manner in accordance with the following guidelines. Number one, religious themes may be part of the curriculum for school-sponsored activities and programs, provided it is essential to the learning experience in various fields of study and is presented objectively. Number two, the inclusion of religion shall be for educational purposes only. Number three, the emphasis of religion themes should be only as extensive as necessary for a balanced and comprehensive study of curriculum. Such studies shall never be used to proselytize, establish, foster, or demeaning in particular religion, religious tenets, or beliefs. And number four, student-initiated expressions to questions or assignments which reflect their beliefs or non-beliefs about religious themes shall be accommodated. This was presented to us by TSBA. We adopted it on August 11th, 2016. So about a year ago, we adopted what TSBA's recommendation was. With that being said, it's my opinion that Loudon County educators follow this policy and follow the law established in order to support this. And in essence, they were policy to provide exposure to students with curriculum in regard to religious content. Specifically, 6th and 7th grade, we see teaching of religion in regards to the Islam curriculum.
Part of the social studies curriculum.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Great.
Like remember we had
We had, somebody came in, we had the textbooks, and we were able to look at it about a year ago now.
Yes, that's it. We had a teacher from North Middle School come and present that information, and so in essence, it's my opinion that those guys are following state board policy and obviously your school board policies. Mr. Miles, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure the board had all
There's
the
been
information.
a new social studies curriculum statewide, either recently adopted or it's
They're working
about,
on it.
working, it's about to
Yes.
that point.
I believe it'll be adopted next year.
Okay, all right.
With that being said, I think I need to tell you what the law says in this bill that was voted on by 87 legislators and signed by the governor.
What's the TCA code?
What?
The TCA code?
What's the code? It's the location. of
What's
this
the Tennessee
law.
code annotated that you're about to read?
Public Chapter 660.
I'm sorry,
Public Chapter 660 is the code that was.
that's not the TCA code. There'll be three different numbers with it, Mr. Miles. It should have a chapter, a paragraph, and then another number. Subsection.
It's Public Chapter 660, that's the number that was given to it when it was signed into law. It's TCA Title 29, 49, Chapter 2, Part 1, Title 49, Chapter 5, Part 456, and Title 49, Chapter 6, Part 10. That's what you're looking for.
That's it.
In that bill that was voted on and approved, this bill requires each LEA to adopt a policy regarding the appropriate inclusion of religion in local curriculum and instructional materials. It also requires each LEA to make publicly available a syllabus for grades 6 through 12 social studies, science, math, English language arts courses, which includes a course calendar that includes standards, objectives, and topics covered, major assignments required, and procedures for parental access to instructional materials in accordance with the Board of Education's policy on inspection of school instructional materials by parents and legal guardians of the students. Prior to the 2016-17 school year, each LEA must adopt the policy and must provide an opportunity for public comment before the policy is adopted. Policy was adopted after the school started, but that's minor. The thing is all this stuff that it says that should have been available to the public to look at and make comments on before you adopted that policy.
I was
stuff that I just read.
I would disagree with that. Every school board meeting we have public comment opportunities. We've got syllabus that schools, syllabi that schools provide us that are open and available to the public. Mr. Miles, I'm not sure that I remember us ever censoring you in any opportunity that you've ever wanted to speak about school board policy or school content that we have in regard to our curriculum.
No, you've never censored me.
Well, that's what I'm
I
saying.
got up and warned you that day that you should not be adopting that policy because the public has not seen the stuff that's in that bill that says that we're supposed to look at and make comments before you adopt that policy.
Hey,
But you adopted it anyway.
you guys are welcome to come and.
That had to be done before you adopted the policy.
Okay, we're just going to have to agree.
That's my only problem is the way it was handled. And evidently, the school board association has found something because they have sent something back to you guys.
Any other comment?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Since you want to hear from me, Mr. Chairman.
I can tell you the chunk bits, you know.
You could tell that I was going to add something on my mind. I'm going to talk about a policy that you didn't talk about today, but I think it needs to be addressed, and I think school board member Mr. Riding has spoken about this over years, and the school board still hasn't acted on it. You know, we have a national problem with opioids now, and it's affecting people in all walks of life. And, you know, I didn't think about it until he started talking about it, about how the school board doesn't test their employees when it comes to drug testing. And I think that, you know, we entrust our children, our grandchildren, our youngest citizens in the community to the schools, to the public schools. And I think that teachers, personnel, should be tested randomly as they are in all other walks of life. And, you know, with this opioid problem, it's affecting everybody. You know, the mayor of Nashville just lost her only son. So I hope the school board looks at this issue. It's past time, and it's not about any one teacher, but it's really a safeguard to protect all the children that are entrusted to your care. So I hope that's addressed. The non-faculty coach approvals, Mr. Vance, is there any money involved? Is there a stipend or an amount regarding?
I'm sure that if we have coaches that are paid stipends, it is commensurate with and consistent with what we've had in years past.
Okay, so you do have a list that we can look at and see how much you're paying out. Was there an increase in this? Will there be an increase in this budget?
There will be a 2% increase, similar to teacher pay increases of 2%. We follow that through with the coaching supplements. For example, if we had just for conversation purposes, if we had a coach that did not return last year, that was a paid position that was replaced with another coach, that coach will obviously receive a stipend that would match his or her experience, and then it would be at a 2% raise whenever the commission passes their budget.
I'm not sure what the other people will be talking about. I hope it's not out-of-county students, because if we have schools that are overcrowded and we're looking into building additional buildings because of that overcrowding situation, you know, I think it's unfair to the children that are in a crowded classroom anyway, and there's the potential of having to have another teacher hired. We know that smaller classrooms are a better teaching environment for the kids. They learn better, and there are sample studies to prove that. If the school board thinks about changing the out-of-county policy, I still say that the only fair way is to have tuition. And I still think that it's an issue with regards to having so many children that are exiting the North City schools and going to the county schools. Yes, the county schools have excellent schools. My children went to.
Can you say it one more time?
I have always said that, Mr. Vance. My children attended those schools, so I know that they're good schools. But I also think that bigger classrooms are not a good thing. I would like smaller classrooms, and we know it's a better learning environment. And the North City School has good schools too.
Yeah,
And they need to keep the children there because, you know, Mr. Chuck Cable told us a number of years ago that the children coming from the North City are to be treated as out-of-county students because of the two-school system. So, you know, overcrowding is an issue and it needs to be addressed. So, anyway, with regards to the public records policy, I'm going to read it, but I do have some concerns, and hopefully I'll read it in the interim and share my concerns with you. I can tell you that with the county, my concern has been twofold. If you're going to charge people for copies, you need to tell them up front what it's going to cost. If you're going to charge after 50 copies, they need to know how much it's going to be per copy. And then if it goes beyond the first free hour, they need to know what that hourly rate or the increment will be. And I don't think that's asking too much. The fees need to be addressed up front. I also think that with the aggregate of 4 or more per month, that things such as meeting agendas, minutes, and packets should be exempt from those 4 requests. In other words, whatever you get at a meeting, it should be complete to the public as well, and we shouldn't have to make a records request. That would cut down on the number of requests that are made. So I think those should be exempt. And, you know, if you feel you have to protect yourself and make sure that you're going to, you know, be compensated for those public records, the public needs to know up front. So, you know, we're paying, those of us that have worked in the community for years and years, we're paying for the salaries, the benefits, we're paying for that already. What this unfair law does, it's asking us to pay a second time for participating, for being good citizens, and for wanting to hold our government accountable. So, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Look, I'm sure somewhere down the road we'll get together on that, and we'll all be happy.
Mr. Chairman, we've got 2 folks that wanted to come and present to the school board tonight about a hardship request. We've got Ms. Pam Burnham and Ms. Teresa Bunch that wanted to speak. I think they were going to flip a corner arm wrestle about who was going to get up and speak first, but both of these ladies had some requests for the board, and I want to make sure that I recognize them this afternoon. We spoke earlier in the week, and this is Mrs. Pam Burnham. Ms. Pam Burnham's got her grandchild in her possession. She does not have educational guardianship. I think her daughter does, who is not involved in the picture. And so I asked her to come tonight and present to you guys. I shared with her because when it comes to my attention, I got to follow board policy. In essence, this kid is counted as an out-of-county kid because mom does not live in the county. I shared with the mom if DCS were involved or if the Judge Sledge were involved with juvenile custodial guardianship, then I'd be more than happy to accept the kid, not ask any questions. And anytime somebody brings me a power of attorney, there are great big areas that I'll accept them for. If their house is destroyed by natural disaster, if they're incarcerated, incapable of making decisions because of mental impairments, if they are deceased, or if they are in a drug rehabilitation program. Outside of those plans, I don't accept them because I don't feel like it meets what the Board of Education's policy was. So I asked Ms. Burnham to come tonight to present to you guys and for you guys to help me decide if it's something we need to put on the board agenda at 7 o'clock. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I've been trying to get him in school all week. So far, I've just been hitting the rocks. He's 14 years old, and I want him in school. I can't power of attorney don't count no more, I reckon. But it has for years for me to get him into school. No, it don't. I went to court yesterday trying to get custody over. I gotta have power of attorney papers for that, which don't count here. Which I moved this past weekend, all in one weekend, to be here in Loudon County so he would go to school. Now he's not able to go because of some rules changing over. I just want you to understand, I need him in school. I need this kid in school. He's a special education. He's a good kid. He went to school here up till 6th grade, till we went to Monroe County. So we come back down here because the school was better. The Loudon County schools are better. There's drugs down there in Sweetwater, and I don't want him growing up in that situation. But I want you to understand, don't leave him behind. Get this kid in school. He needs to be in school, not sitting at home with me. He's done that all summer, drove me nuts.
Who has custody of the child?
I don't have custody over him, I got power of attorney over him.
Where are the parents at?
The daddy's dead, and the mama, she's crazy.
Okay.
And to be honest about it.
Have you gone to the clerks in Loudon County and asked for a temporary custody order of the
I
child?
went yesterday.
What did they tell you?
I gotta have a power of attorney papers.
That don't sound correct. We deal with that every day.
That's
Who
what
did you
the-
talk to?
That one out in the office.
You need to go up there tomorrow and ask to speak to either Hank Sledge, Rex Dale, or Kim Nix.
Well, Rex Dale's the one said I needed the power of attorney papers.
He's the judge then, but usually
Well-
usually if it's a situation where a child, the parents aren't intact, that you can go and get a temporary custody order, and they set a court date for you, and they set a court date for the mother to show up, and she can fight for the right to keep the child, or she'll give up the right.
Where do you live? Where did you move to?
I live down here on the 72 highway, this side of the Loudon County line.
Address?
The word,
Address.
48772, Highway 72 North.
Okay.
But,
So you have not talked to the judge?
no, I'm not talking to the judge, but I filled the paperwork out yesterday, and I turned it in, and the woman came back and said that Judge Dale needed the power of attorney papers, which through my move I made, I've lost them.
Who was your attorney? Go back and get another copy. Where were they filed?
Knox.
Okay, they'll give you a copy.
Well, I thought I might be able to go over to elementary school, because I gave them a copy when he started over to elementary school. Because I do not drive in Knox.
You need to get that temporary custody order signed by the judge, because not just only for school, but all the other reasons that go along
It
with
takes
it.
10 minutes.
Then you're
Yeah.
done. Then you're done. I mean,
That's what you need to do. But we set this policy 10 years ago almost, about when we started talking about building schools, the county commission didn't want, we had a lot of out-of-county kids, and so we decided we weren't gonna do the out-of-county kids anymore. You know, and so every year we have folks that come in here, and not in your situation, but usually on the line. But if you'll go get all that paperwork, I think you'll be fine. I'm not mistaken. But I would go back up there and I wouldn't take no for an answer. I would get all that stuff and tell them you want a court date to have temporary custody order. That way you can, because there's a lot of other things that can happen with him, and you'll be in a bind.
Well, see, I've always used his, my power of attorney for his doctors and getting him in school. Because he's always went here until he was in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
Sweetwater accepted him with what I had. But, I hit a rock when I come back up here.
Go see the judge tomorrow and always carry those power of attorney papers.
Tell me about it.
In your purse with you.
I did, and the purse I had them in, I've lost. So,
I'd go over and get that signed tomorrow then.
I know Judge Dale, he's a fireman, I went through him.
He is, he's a good man.
He's a good man, so.
Is the mother causing any problems or any?
No, she
issues?
just, out of the picture, she talks to him over the phone, he don't see her,
She's not contesting any of this?
No, no, she
Yeah, you
was,
should be able to, there.
she's got 3 other kids she didn't raise. So I've raised 2 of her kids, and my cousins raised the other 2, so.
Generally, Hank Sledge handles those
That's who they told me to go to, but they took it to Dale. I don't know why they took it to him, but he came back and said I needed.
He was part of this next time.
Miss Burnham, I didn't realize that you had a POA on file at Loudon Elementary School. I'll ask Mrs. Greenway if she's got one of those tomorrow. But in addition to that, call out to the elementary school, it's 458-2001, and ask him if they can give you a copy of that out of his old record.
Well, we seen her yesterday, and she knew him.
Yeah, they said when you were in office and you guys were speaking a little bit, and she recognized.
Yeah, she remembers Robbie.
But call Miss Greenway and make sure that you.
Oh, yeah, I call her tomorrow to get to court.
Absolutely.
All right.
Appreciate you coming out.
All right, thank you for listening to me.
Yeah. Guys, we've got Mrs. Teresa Bunch and Miss Destiny Webb after her. Miss Bunch, appreciate you coming out. Miss Bunch actually works for the Moore City High School cafeteria. We won't hold that against her. We appreciate the fact that she loves all babies, even if she is a parent.
Well, I stand before you to try to get my great grandkids in Eaton's Elementary. The bus runs right by on our road, on house, Duff Road. It's like, we're just 100 yards from the county line, Duff Road. And Duff Road, it's Duff Road in Loudon County, and it's the same road now. And after you pass the county line, it's Malone Road. And we do all our shopping in Lure City. Even the parents to these kids, they work in Lure City. We do everything in Lure City. We got a Lure City address, Lure City phone, Lure City light bill. I mean, we even got tags in Loudon County for a while till they actually said we had to do it in Loudon County. Loudon County's, we only go there to do our land taxes and our tags because we've got to. I mean, if we could, we'd do it in Loudon County, but we can't. And yeah, I worked about 3 years at Highland Park, and I heard you talk about the new renovations and everything. I want to go see it because it's been a long time. I started the high school in 2000, and before that I was working at Highland Park, and I loved that little school. And I can't wait to go see the renovations.
We'd love to have you come out September the 14th and cut a ribbon.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Absolutely.
I would try to do that.
So Ms. Bunch lives in an area that we used to pick up with our school buses generally. And we have obviously quit because there's some out-of-county kids now. So I asked her, she asked me if I could enroll, and I said no, based on board policy, that is all outside my abilities. It's Board of Education's point of view. So we're going to have several situations like this in years to come if we don't choose to amend our policy where several kids live just up and down the county border.
Is that right off Cargill Chapel?
No, it's a little bit further down. It's the next road down. And their parents rode the bus. Of course, it changed the policy. But, I mean, we don't have a Loudon County bus that goes down through there. Just the Loudon County bus.
Grandchildren?
It's my great-grandchildren. My grandchildren rode the bus.
And you have custody of them?
No, I'm just speaking for them because they're working. They work in Lure City, Walmart, We do everything in Lure City. We get Lure City and Loudon sales tax,
Is that kind of at Lake Awana?
No, it's a good place up. Okay, if you know where Oral Church is?
Yeah.
It's just a little ways past the Oral Church back this way. It's the next road.
I know several years ago, we had an arrangement with the Loudon County about our Lake Awana.
Yeah.
There was no safe place for our bus to turn around, and they didn't either, so we made a circle in that Lake Awana, with Loudon County. And we agreed if they would come this way, we just hollered. I think probably all those kids around there now, I don't know. But we did have, at one time, we had that agreement.
It was a great deal.
Yep.
But I think you did a great job, and I thank you for listening to me. And I mean, since the bus goes right by there, it'd be nice, It's a hardship for the mother to try to get them to Kingston, when they could go to the crossroads. It's really, really close where we're at.
You know, this is a perfect example of where we could have a policy where the principals would have the discretion as to whether or not we let these kids at the school, if they had no impact upon the size of classrooms, no impact for teachers.
Well, this is an interesting one. You know, we've talked about having a tuition policy of some kind, or a situation where somebody's right at the border. But also we put the caveat in there, if there's room in that school. We have an Eaton's right now, we just had a conversation a moment ago, Eaton's is plumb full. You know, we don't have any extra room. We're gonna have to hire an extra teacher there anyway. But it would depend on the specific classroom, I guess, as to whether there are extra chairs in that classroom within the number we had. But that becomes a real tough one then, even if we were to adopt a different policy. We're always going to need that caveat in there that, you know, there's got to be space available in the school.
That's exactly right. That's what you base it on. You base it on a board policy, but it's based on discretionary powers we give the principals to not create any of the issues you just mentioned.
I haven't forgotten the beating that we took over this. And I feel for the young lady, that abuse was the worst we ever took on this board.
Yeah.
Well, we have this coming every year, right at this time, the school is opening, you know, and we're getting these kinds of petitions. You know, and I think the board needs to think, do we want to go back and review the policy once again and see where we are? Or we just going to let it set where it is?
That's pretty sad. I mean, is what it is.
If you don't know what to do, that's my thing.
Oh, yeah, it's a tough one, yeah.
You know, not to sound like a jerk to us, but I mean, we owe it, we're the taxpayers of Loudon County, we have to responsibility for. And, you know, that's unfortunate that the way these things are set up. And, I mean, we've had this every year, we have the same thing. And I don't think we've walked away yet.
It's unwinnable, it's very unfortunate, but we don't have any choices.
Ms.
Well,
Welch,
thank you.
thank you so much for your presentation. And gentlemen, you got one more parent that wanted to come and present tonight. This is Ms. Destiny Webb. Ms. Webb is a parent of students that attend Blount County schools. She attempted to enroll in Greenback School. Mr. Castile declined, and it got brought to my attention. And I said, because you're out of county, you would have to present to the board if you were going to gain admittance through a hardship. Ms. Webb, thank you for coming out this afternoon.
Hi. Yeah, it's just, I've got a 6-year-old boy, he's going to be 7 here soon, and I've got a 5-year-old girl. Problem is, for a while we had them in Loudon County, and everything was going good. The problem was with Lanier Elementary, it's okay school, but they're not really well equipped to deal with my son. He has ADHD, and his therapist is actually looking to file paperwork and everything with the disability office, because she believes he may have a slight form of PTSD due to some trauma he suffered up at Knoxville when we lived there. And Mrs. Robinson, the principal of the school, has admitted to me and several other parents she's not equipped to deal with children with his problems. And she's refused to take him back into Lanier. I can't get him in any other schools. And Greenback Elementary is the closest to us at this moment. We live right on the line. I can walk past our front yard out to the driveway, and that's Greenback right there. The problem is, at this moment, we can't put him in any other schools. Maryville City won't take him because he's too far away, and we can't afford the tuition. Me and my husband are both forklift drivers. We don't exactly make a whole lot.
Ms. Webb, what did you say your child's name was?
Sephiroth, it's Sephoroth.
So, S-E-P-H, what was the last name?
Webb.
Gotcha.
How can they not, something's fishy here.
It's,
I'm not understanding how they can not accept it. Doc, I guess I asked you that.
Well, by state law, they're required to provide, in federal law, they're required to provide those services. They can't refuse you on that basis. So you're right, something's fishy here, something's not right.
well, we were told by Mrs. Robinson he's too much for her to handle. She's not handled a child like him before. When he was in Lanier, she was constantly calling the law on my 6-year-old, saying that he was having violent outbursts, that he was too much to handle, and he has 3 different therapists he does see. He is taking medication, and it has helped calm him down. It's just she says she does not think that the teacher nor herself can really fully handle his issues. She's not equipped for that. She's never dealt with a child like him. That's our problem. That's where we're having issues at the moment.
You know, well, I mean, I hear the difficulties. but
I would go with the Blunt County Board of Education.
Yeah, they can't, I don't think it's.
You're entitled to a free and appropriate public education.
Absolutely.
Our problem is with the school date already starting and everything, if I don't get him enrolled soon, then it's gonna put me and my husband in a lot of trouble. He's been in homeschool for most of the school year this past year because of the fact she couldn't handle him. I actually had to leave my job to homeschool him due to it.
Was there an expulsion or suspension?
No, I was told I could either pull him out of the school and start homeschooling, or she was going to expel him because she already suspended him 4 times.
You need to talk to Blunt County Board of Education.
Yes.
Talk to the Blunt County Superintendent.
All right.
Hey, I know that young man, and I will tell him that you come to the Board of Education meeting tonight. He'll be interested to hear about your presentation. So
Thank you.
I appreciate you for coming out this way. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, board members, I'm concluding with my thoughts.
Anyone else in the audience would like to address the board at this time?
I thought he was in trouble.
Seeing none.
You know,